Yes, as I said, we'll talk quickly about They Work For You's history of text transcripts. So They Work For You was run in the UK since 2003. And I'm Alex Parsons at the Democracy Lead at My Society. In the UK, we run They Work For You. It's a parliamentary monitoring website. I'm going to talk about the history of They Work For You as a fairly traditional text transcript-based approach and sort of why we're interested to understand more about people's use and experiments with video. In the early 2000s, there was an online version of the UK's parliamentary record that was published online, but it sort of was published in a way that sort of mirrored the print version of it. It talked about pages and columns. This was hard to search, didn't have ways of looking up the speeches of a single person, etc. So the idea of They Work For You initially was to reformat this into a richer format that had better concepts of people, speeches, and votes. And then on top of that, building a website that made it easy to search and view debates. And so this is sort of interesting because it's taking things the last mile. So there are obviously like people working in Parliament sitting in there transcribing, creating the record, and they getting all the way to publishing it. But then we were taking an extra mile to reformat it and add value on top of that. And this is sort of the key idea they were for you that you can add a lot of value at that last step. So once the transcripts are created, you can do useful things with them relatively cheaply. So we run email alerts, we make the search better. And Parliament's own display has improved over the last 20 years, but it's sort of that idea of like we can add value over if this is published in a better way, we can add value, and when it's published in a bad way, we can work with it. So with a common format, we have since that initial period added the UK's other three parliaments for the there's a Scottish Parliament, the Northern Ireland Assembly, and the Welsh Parliament or Senedd. Um, but for each of these, we write different scripts to convert to the common format. So there is a similar advantage here in having that sort of format that we wrote ourselves, something that means we can work more with multiple parliaments in the UK with some slight adaptations to each one. One of the interesting things about parliamentary transcripts to me is they're democratic documents rather than exact transcripts. So they can be an official record of what was supposed to have been said. Sometimes ministers and MPs will submit corrections when they get figures and facts wrong. And so there's sort of a constructed version of what happened in Parliament that is close, but not exactly the same as reality. Sometimes these add useful shorthand, referring to standing orders, or add additional information about motions that was not said orally. So, for instance, we've recently started to add a new parser to try and pull the copy of motions from these transcripts. So, they help us to say when we display votes, here is what that vote was about. I think we would struggle with a something that pulled just the audio in to be able to do that as consistently. Like we are building on top of the work being done inside Parliament to create a sort of coherent record that is both what was said, something a bit better than what was said, but also what's more than what was said. We also have encountered, and this is something that will be an issue for PMOs that's running around the world. In the Welsh Parliament or Senedd, both English and Welsh are official languages, and the transcripts are produced in both languages. So again, this is making parliamentary activity accessible as a democratic document, but obviously it wasn't spoken in everything to both languages at the same time. So this is a step between what would happen as a strict transcript of what happened and accessible public documents. So sometimes I sort of think about the limits of the text transcript approach. So sometimes when there's something exciting happening that people want to know about, we don't have a good real-time view. Transcripts land the next morning, and so we can obviously write things as we go in real time, but we can't usefully say this will be good in the morning. It's retrospective rather than live, and that can be good enough, but it's sort of a limitation of building on top of this stack. Similarly, video-based social media has become more and more common. It is sort of less useful for people to share in this way. So that while we're a loose transition, which may or may not be a good thing from more text-based social media to more video-based social media, it is a sort of a less useful way of exposing content in a way that then travels on further. And sort of similarly, and then this is sort of the case that given we know a video exists, given we know it's possible to access, that making that accessible and searchable would fulfill a sort of our original mission of making these things easy to find and understand. So I'm sort of interested in learning more. This was before my time at my society, but in 2008, so relatively early in They Work For You's history, there was a collaboration with the BBC to explore searchable transcripts. This involved at the time, this was, before a lot of the widespread video, infrastructure, and so there was a custom. I think there was a custom Flash-based approach used for video. And similarly, the best approach to like syncing up the video to the transcript was a crowdsourcing approach where, a large number of volunteers would sort of try to sync up, this is what this person said at this point. So I'm interested in learning more about what's possible now. Obviously, storage costs have changed in the last 20 years. There's new technologies, new approaches, and also to talk a bit more about what might be possible in the future. How does new waves of improved transcription or automated machine learning approaches help address some of these issues in the long run? Are there interesting hybrids ahead? So what's a useful decision in 5 years' time? So that's sort of roughly speaking my interests. Other people can have interests and we can talk about those too. So I'll pass over to the Open Parliament team now. So
All right, thanks a lot, Alex. I'm gonna quickly try and see if I manage the sharing on my side. Think I did? Yes? Okay, good. Yeah, thanks a lot. That was in a way like a perfect introduction for what I was going to say about Open Parliament TV and also the obstacles that we're encountering. Um, my name is Joscha. I'm co-director together with Erica of Open Parliament TV. And the goal with this project was initially to strengthen the trust in parliamentary democracy by making political decision processes more transparent, trustworthy, and participatory. Um, the medium we choose to work with is primarily video. That's always like the first gateway because it is as close as it gets to the idea of the parliament negotiating in public. So people being able to follow what happens in parliament is, as of now, like the most timely way to follow what is actually happening, these video recordings. The problem is that these snippets from the recordings are very often taken out of context. And it is quite difficult to access and then reuse these snippets from recordings that the parliament or media partners provide. Um, the solution that we have created is basically a merger of the official transcripts that the stenographers do in parliament and the video recordings. What we essentially do is we take the video recordings, which are in the case of the German National Parliament provided by the Parliament, but in case of some regional parliaments, these come through media partners. So that is one source, and the other source is the official transcripts, very often in ugly, horrible PDF format, but in the case of the German National Parliament now in an XML format that we can work with. So what we do is essentially just taking the original transcripts and then synchronizing that with the audio of the video. So we're not doing any text to speech, any speech to text. We're actually, yeah, if people are interested in that, I can talk about that more later, but we're essentially doing quite the opposite. We're doing forced alignment, meaning we kind of generate like an audio spoken version of the transcripts of the official proceedings, and then match that with the waveform of the audio. That like just essentially that's what's happening. So the end result of that is that we have for every given sentence, in our case, could also be word timings. For every given sentence, we know where in the video it appears. Um, yeah, I can also talk about that a bit more later or discuss it because that like one thing that Alex just said is also a thing that a problem that we have. These official transcripts and stenographic records, they of course are not exactly the spoken word. That makes it sometimes a little bit hard to synchronize. That's also why we use this unit of a whole sentence, because with all the corrections being made afterwards by members of parliament and things being like polished by the stenographers themselves, um, it is sometimes a bit difficult to find the part of the audio where that is being said. Um, yeah, the result of that is our search engine and interactive video platform that allows you to search like word by word through the videos and then jump directly to the point in time by just clicking on like a result snippet. You jump to the point in time in the video of the debate um, and can access that very quickly. Um, what you can also do, because we have these timings, is you can share text snippets from the debates, which link directly to the point in time in the video. So you have kind of like a official record, an official citable, yeah, like a citable text snippet from the official records, but then linked to the point in time in the video. What we started doing a while ago as well is then, as we have these texts and as we have the timings for every sentence, to start seeing what additional information we can find out about the debates based on the text. So as soon as we detect entities or different kinds of things, people, laws by now as well. Within the official proceedings, we also have the point in time in the video automatically when they were detected. That allows us to put them in a video player and display them like this. Um, we are mainly doing this for journalists and activists, but of course, there's a whole range of people being interested in this kind of data and this kind of accessibility. Parliament administrations being part of them. We had also like people we didn't target initially, but who reached out almost the most after researchers were people working in offices of or bureaus of members of parliament, because that kind of tool makes their life a lot easier. Our long-term goal is to make parliamentary debates accessible across different countries, languages, and also like levels of government. We did this as like a prototype for the German National Parliament, but everything is built in a way and thought in a way that it is applicable to different kinds of parliaments and contexts. So one thing we want to do is still work a bit on trying to apply what we did for the German National Parliament to the 16 regional parliaments, plus also a few like city councils and county councils. But essentially, the idea of this and the whole structure of this could be applied to any kind of parliament that publishes video recordings of the sessions and written proceedings. And if there are no written proceedings, even then we could kind of apply this idea by then using generated transcripts, which is, just to have this shortly mentioned, also an idea that we're playing with for the case that we don't have immediate transcripts. Like in the German case, they like the official proceedings arrive on the next day in the morning at some point. That is quite okay, also for journalistic use. In the case of some regional parliaments, it's like weeks or even months later, making it like, yeah, maybe interesting for researchers and historians. Um, so we need to find a way to bridge that gap. Even if it's just a day, there is a gap, and it would make sense to use to work with automated transcripts for the time being until the official transcripts are there. And for the cases where we don't even have official transcripts, like in city council or something, there are no stenographers. So we don't even have these word level proceedings to just stick with the automated transcripts there. Yeah, that's essentially what we're doing, where we stand. I have a few more like things on like tech details in case there are questions about that, but yeah, that is essentially what we do with Open Parliament TV.